the course of 2008, we're talking about 25 films from 25 years ago, aka 1983. This week's film is To Be or Not to Be, which is a film with Mel Brooks, surprisingly not directed by Mel Brooks, and it's a remake of an Ernst Lubitsch film from, I believe, 1942. I've got two guests with me today. I would like to introduce Leigh Celentano from New York. She works in clinical research. Also, David Vinjamuri, who teaches marketing at NYU and is also the author of a new book, Accidental Branding it's called, is that right?
That's right.
Very exciting. All right, I want to talk about To Be or Not to Be. Let's get some overall thoughts first. David, what you think?
Not to be.
Not to be. anti the film.
Well, to be fair, I think it was a very interesting film because when I first watched it, I didn't actually realize that it was from 1983. And as I thought about it...
But you knew you were doing a show called Film ReVision that looked at films from 1983.
I didn't actually... I have to apologize. I didn't know the premise until later.
Oh, okay.
So I came in completely blank slate.
Right. Well, how old did you think it was?
It actually felt to me like it was the 40s or the 50s. Now I knew obviously Tim Matheson is not that old, but here's why I think that it's not unintentional, because the whole film felt to me like it had the pace of vaudeville, and I don't think it's accidental that it starts with vaudeville and it ends with vaudeville, and a lot of the devices that are used, like people not being able to tell Mel Brooks from Hitler. Or somebody they had met an hour or two later, are very much stage conventions. So,
Leigh.
I mean, I definitely agree with David. I think, initially at the end of the movie, I really hated it. And then I thought about it, and I thought it seems so much like a earlier period piece that I thought maybe I missed something.
Well, it was a remake. I mean, it was a remake of a 1942 film.
But I guess then I started to think, well, if the whole purpose of the movie was to kind of make fun of the times and just show that these people were acting and that they weren't really trying to make an 83 movie, they were trying to make fun of a movie from like 39.
I don't think they were making fun of the old movie. I mean, I just think that...
Well, that's the only way it would work for me. Is if it were truly like a spoof.
Well, I mean, like,
if it were a serious
movie, are you familiar with Mel Brooks films?
Yeah, I mean, and I liked the producers.
I mean, they're all spoofs to some degree.
But this one was a little too. It was trying too hard to be funny, trying too hard. It was very cliche.
I like the film, but I also have a soft place in my heart for Mel Brooks. I really, particularly at this time he was working. I mean, certainly. The film is no Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, or even Spaceballs. It's a very highly underrated Mel Brooks film. But
the History of the World, that's
History of the World. History of the World is so disjointed, though. It doesn't have, to me, the impact of some of those other films. Yeah. It surprised me to learn. I just assumed he directed this film. I discovered at the end he did not direct the film. Mm-hmm. He just started. He didn't even write it. He wrote some of the songs, and he was the star. But it felt. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but it felt so much like a Mel Brooks film to me. I mean, I almost wonder if it was a pseudonym.
Well, actually, to me, it didn't feel entirely like a Mel Brooks film. It felt like Mel Brooks, in that his comedic timing and his sense of character seemed very much the same as some of the rest of his films, but there was definitely an earnestness about the issues in the plot that you don't always get in a Mel Brooks film. That's what made it harder for me.
Well, actually. I mean, that to me is the number one thing that stands out about the film is the tone.
Yeah. And
I feel like, and I didn't hate it. I just thought, wow, it's really interesting. It's weird. But I don't necessarily think that's direction so much as the screenplay. But the film gets very, very serious at times. Not like a heart attack. But I mean, it certainly, has, and this is, I mean, Mel Brooks does tackle racial issues in Blazing Saddles.
I agree with you. I mean, it tackled serious themes, but all the serious themes were tackled with an element of silliness that was just not really called for. Everything was just so light, and even I wanted more seriousness. It was too light for me.
See, I disagree with that. I wanted more comedy.
It works as entertainment. I was entertained. I didn't.
Did you laugh at all?
Hate it. No, I don't like that kind of comedy.
What kind of comedy do you like?
I don't know. It just wasn't. It's not very witty. It's not very. It's just slapstick almost.
Sure,
and I
but that has its place.
Right, so I don't want to be, now I'm being biased.
I mean, I'm surprised I feel like the animosity towards this film is more than I expected, because it's fun.
Well, I have to say, I had fun with it when I started retroactively to think of it not as a film, but as a play on film. When it felt like vaudeville, when I felt those rhythms and the timing, and I suspended my disbelief the same way that I would in the theater.
But in that sense, the film is successful in what it tries out to do. I mean, it certainly has that type of feel, and it, and the fact that you thought it was, you're the one that thought it was so
I
much
did,
older.
yeah.
I mean, like, that's a tribute to what, certainly it accomplishes its goals.
But not in a good way. I mean, the fact that I felt that it was a lot older, I mean, I agree with that too, that I felt that it was a lot older, not in a good way, in a way where I felt like it was making fun of really bad movies from that time, where the acting is so overdramatic and just so exaggerated.
Mel Brooks is always that big.
I can't believe that person was nominated for an Oscar that year.
Charles Durning.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the worst. I mean, it was really amazing.
Everybody was over the top in this film. I mean, this was not just him.
Right.
That's why I think it works if it's almost like they were staging a play to kind of talk about the times. It doesn't work if it was supposed to be a serious '83 movie. It works if it were a play. They were acting.
I mean, it uses comedy to sort of make some points.
Right, definitely.
Some social points about social issues. That doesn't mean it's a serious. It's not trying to be a serious film. Some of the more lowbrow humor. It wasn't a serious film, but I mean, it's Mel Brooks actually is among very few filmmakers, even though again he didn't direct, who would attempt to suggest at social issues within the context of just a complete farce. But I mean, I think within the. I mean, I think it's the parameters of the film that you're objecting to. I mean, like, I think it's just like you don't like farces, it seems.
I don't like that genre. I'll be completely honest.
I honestly don't know how well this treatment wore, because I think that stepping on one side of the line or the other side of the line works pretty well even now. I mean, you could do Young Frankenstein or 5 other Mel Brooks movies are as funny today as they were when they were made. Similarly, if you'd taken this in a more dramatic sense, that would do very, very well. But he's sort of trying to do both here. And I think it's it's the actual director of the film and not a Mel Brooks decision. And
See,
it just doesn't feel
I find it hard to believe that Mel Brooks wasn't completely in charge, even though he didn't have the title of director. I just have to think. I mean, like at where he was in his career at the time, because he won an Oscar for the producers as a screenplay. He was powerful. He had clout. I mean, I find it hard to believe that he was not. He may not have had a title director, but I find it hard to believe that he was not in charge of that set when push came to shove.
I think if you're sitting in 1983 and you're Mel Brooks' age and you're watching him, you grew up with the conventions of vaudeville. And
well, I don't know if you grew up with the conventions of vaudeville.
Well, but no, but your parents.
Certainly, Mel Brooks films and Mel Brooks style was a lot more prevalent in the minds of the audience.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you're 50 in 1983, that means that you would have seen Gleason and all the people who, when they came onto television, they were really bringing a stage kind of performance to television.
Okay.
And that's what your parents grew up with, and that. And I think you had a cultural literacy in that genre that we just don't have.
Okay, I'm going to wrap things up. I want to thank David for coming. Congratulations on your book. Comes out next week. It's very exciting. Accidental Branding is David's book. And I want to thank Leigh. She does not have a book yet. But Leigh, thanks for coming on Film ReVision. And don't forget to vote for your favorite blogs. You got the star system. Vote for your blogs, and we'll bring the 2 favorite guests back at the end of the year for a recap. We got a very special, I think we're talking about doing a very special thing for the next time on Film ReVision, but I'm not going to give it away right now. So we'll talk about that, so keep an eye out. And also, if you love movies, like I assume you do if you're watching, don't forget to tune into Reel 13. It comes back Saturday, March 22nd. For those of you who don't know what Reel 13 is, it's a cinema initiative on Channel 13 in New York. Shows classics, indies, and shorts. Although the order is classic, shorts, and indies. And March 22nd, it comes back with East of Eden with James Dean and Joe Van Fleet. And the short you pick on reel13.org. And the indie is Imaginary Heroes. That's Saturday, March 22nd, 9 p.m. And that's it for this edition of Film ReVision. I'm Jonathan Betzler. We'll see you next time.